Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Nëïgsëndöïg show. My name is Nëïgsëndöïg, the namesake for this here podcast. Well, I just changed the name recently of CISN, and that was on Friday. The new name is Cöcülës Media, which will be much easier than the whole spelling of the CISN acronym. I realized that CISN was not compatible with my pseudonym at all. With this new name, it will actually be 98% compatible according to my research on the matter. Granted, this is a sudden change for most, though I took some time to think on it beforehand. However, given some length of time, this name will hopefully stick, and things will be much better. Still the same me, still CRR narrator in Mugi to Sokyo, same channels, same content. Think of this as an under new management sign, but instead, it's an under new name or under new brand sign, something along those lines. This rebrand is due to my research, as I had mentioned, though I intend on continuing what I do with the newly named Cöcülës Media. I'm also glad that I won't be confusing California's seismic network, which also has the initials of CISN. I will finally be able to give them their initials back. Sorry about that, guys. Took me 4 years to realize this naming incompatibility. And now for the good stuff to be had. I had recently made a new vault for the Markdown editor Obsidian, but this one will be for the testing of Obsidian plugins. Pulling up the vault, I already have a template ready to go, and now I await some plugins that I already don't have yet. I will go through the list of plugins I have installed, including those my former editor, Sokyo, has in his vault. The plugins will go as follows. Custom Font Loader, which helps with loading in custom fonts. Data View, which allows for localized systems tracking. Harper, the spell checker that we use, local, fast, and on device. Think of this as a local-only version of a language tool. Style Settings, which allows us to change the settings of some CSS files, if supported. Periodic Notes, an extension of daily notes functionality. Quick Add, which allows us to add notes quickly, like from a template. Advanced Tables, which allows us to essentially make tables easier. And of course, adds advanced functionality to tables. Templater, a plugin that adds advanced functionality to templates. Typewriter Scroll, which just allows for a typewriter-style scrolling mechanism. Graph Analysis, which essentially allows for the use of graphs to analyze my writing. This is for my writing vault. Highlighter, without an E, which is a highlighting plugin, again for the writing vault. Longform, which allows for the creation of screenplays, books, and other long-form projects. This is for my writing vault as well. File Info, which allows for local file information analytics. Incremental Writing, a plugin that allows for the use of the review of notes and blocks over time. This is also for the writing vault. Kanban, which is basically a Kanban board. Again, that's for the writing vault. Outliner, which allows for the creation of certain list types. Quiet Outline, which makes the outline more quiet. WordSprint, a writing exercise plugin. Recent Files, which allows for the opening of recently opened files. And Smart Random Note, which allows for the opening of a random note based upon some parameters I don't yet understand. And there are more plugins that I will not be naming here. With Obsidian out of the way, there's now a Lemmy community for Cöcülës Media that was set up by Sokyo, and I will have it linked below this episode. I am considering, however, leaving any and all Fediverse links we may have in the description of our videos, with the exception of my personal channel specifically. Especially now that we're getting ourselves out there after 4 years of operation, comes September 3rd. Boy, have I been doing this for some time now. Nothing that teaches free software philosophy through practical application can't do. Well, who knows? Some considerations were made for us to go for something like a Pleroma or Miski instance that we could sign up for, as Mastodon seems to be a big Fediverse deal, and it's centralized on a few servers. Miski and Pleroma certainly help with that, though I don't think we'd want an email tied to it. I know that Sokyo went ahead and signed up for the Lemmy instance discussed today, and it required an email, but at the very least, was the best quality instance that we found for our needs. I should also mention that we're actually very new to the Fediverse, and yet we feel right at home once we taught ourselves how it works for the most part. I think it'd be a better idea if we broaden our horizons in the future once we get this sort of thing figured out. To be fair here, as we go ahead and expand our horizons, we may be targeted with some sort of doxing attempt, especially with what I explained last week. However, I've attempted to minimize the damaging info as I could quietly. Though there could be some leaks still that may lead to me personally getting doxed through an OPSEC mistake that could be catastrophic. This is especially the case in a bonus episode that I'll be releasing tomorrow. And yes, I finally got the script for it done. In other research, there's a surprising amount of AUR malware for us Arch users to get our hands on. If that wasn't removed already, which it has been. I'm included as a CachyOS user since CachyOS is the gamer's Arch. Most of the malware actually contains a rat or a remote access Trojan, and is mostly scripts of that type found on GitHub. The Arch team really needs to consider QA testing for AUR packages, especially now that some Microsoft or Apple shill is doing this garbage against Linux users. It's either a big tech shill, some government agent, or a state-sponsored actor from a different country doing this all together. I know no intelligence agency, federal law enforcement agency, or any of the like will look into this, as this is likely a state-sponsored attack from the top down. Thankfully, that's what the chaotic AUR is for, as from what I'm aware, the QA is done by the Garud Linux team themselves. That's from what I'm aware of, though, so take this with a grain of salt. Thankfully, I tried to read the PKG build files to see if anything strange occurs. Likely, I try to find packages that will work extremely well for my needs. And those are strongly encouraged by the Arch user base, based upon the voting system that was implemented for users a long time ago. That, I don't know exactly how, but this system was in place for a long time, I would imagine. And I think we're going to go ahead and actually end this episode here. Also, one quick thing before we go. I decided not to use music this time around as an experiment, so go ahead and let me know if you'd like my music on this podcast in the future or not. That will let me know if I can just go ahead and do it like this, or if music between sections of each episode will do the trick for y'all. That said, every episode releases every Wednesday, provided there are no scheduling conflicts, at 4 p.m. Pacific Time. You can listen to this podcast on Wavelake, YouTube, and any other Podcast 2.0 player, such as Podverse, Fountain, AntennaPod, and many more of the like. You can also copy the RSS feed, located in the show notes YouTube side, and paste it to a player that doesn't support Podcast 2.0. I listen to this podcast on Podverse on my iPhone 7, and it works great for my needs, especially with just a quick search. That said, I am out of time for today's episode. Thank you, and good night. Boy, was this a shorter one than I expected.